And my 9 o'clock shoot! I glance to the left, and there sits Ferdinand. A small travel story. Actually, I don't like public transport. Where the people gather in a small space, there are always a few that aren't considerate enough to let everyone be in peace. Most who ride the bus or train don't want more than just to be left alone. As I stand at the station, I notice a woman. I'd guess she's in her mid-30s. She has brown, shoulder-length hair and wears glasses. In her arms she holds a newborn, gently cradling it as she paces back and forth. 2 children ran past her and she watches them, then turns her gaze back to her baby. She's probably imagining her daughter, and I can tell that by the flood of pink clothing, also running around like that in a few years. The train arrives and a mass of people rushes towards the platform. "Let them get off first," someone calls from the back. And as if this is the most reasonable idea ever, the crowd waits patiently, while about 25 people exit the train with their luggage. I step into the lower level of the train and see that most of the seats are taken. By the window, a young man, probably Turkish, sits with short hair and a full beard. Anyone who's taken the train will know that the seats next to foreigners often remain empty. Subtle racism, perhaps, and in my case it works out in my favor. I ask him if the seat next to him is free, and he smiles and says I can sit down. I mean, of course the seat was free, but I tried to be polite. He might have been expecting me to say, "Would you mind if I sat down next to you?" But I phrased it differently, more personal. It's a seat in the 4-person section, and across from the Turkish man is an empty seat where he stretches out his legs, staring dreamily out of the window. He has headphones on, and I regret leaving mine at home. Opposite me sits an Asian woman. I can't quite read her expression, but she looks tense, and between our seats is a row of shopping bags. Her clothing stands out to me, a tasteful brown and beige outfit with a light brown bag and a turquoise ring that matches her nail polish. It reminds me of my elementary teacher. She wore similar jewelry. The train slowly starts moving, and 2 rows away, 3 young Turkish couples are chatting animatedly, joking around, and it seems like they had a good day and are on their way home. I can't understand what they're saying, but I listen closely. Occasionally, some German sentences mix into the Turkish, giving me clues about their conversation. I envy one of the couples for their closeness they display. I always thought such intimacy only existed in movies, and yet here they are, clearly in the first bloom of love. I hear a sniffle and I glance in the direction of the sound. The Asian girl staring out of the window, her face strained with a tear rolling down her cheek. Suddenly I feel helpless and overwhelmed. I dig through my bag, searching for a tissue, and I hand it to her. She smiles awkwardly and nods as she takes it. We don't speak. She wipes away her tears, holds the tissue gently in her hands, and continues looking out of the window, and I try not to stare at her. The train stops and we all get off. The Turkish conversation fades, replaced by the hectic rush of people standing up, pushing, and exiting the train. I'm not done with my journey yet. I still need to catch the bus. At the bus stop, there are 2 stocky boys whose age I can't quite guess. They have bad skin, and they're wearing base caps and are dressed in baggy pants that no one's worn since the 90s. They're talking about money and how to get it. "You need to open a bank," says one. "That way, you'll get loads of money for moving it from one person to another." The second boy nods, but I can tell he has no idea what his friend is talking about. "Do you even know how money is made?" asks the first boy. The second one hesitates. I mean, they print it?" he asks uncertainly. "Well, yeah, that's just the paper. It doesn't have any value by itself. It only represents a value. Money comes from debt. All the money you have is someone else's debt. We're all living on credit and it's going to catch up on us. The second one looks doubtful. I mean, well, I don't have any debt, he says after a pause. You have to think bigger. Germany has debt. Europe has debt. The whole world has debt. There's more debt in the world than we have money. If people understood our money and economic system, there would be a revolution tomorrow. I picture the images of Frankfurt with people protected by barbed wire fences because citizens have taken it to the streets. The bus arrives and I see it is packed, very packed. I pay for my ticket and find a spot in the middle, holding onto a bus pole. I notice an older man who I estimate to be well over 80. To my left is a group of teenage girls whispering. An elderly woman boards the bus and sharply asks the passenger to give up their seat for her. She waves her disability card in the face. "You don't get this for nothing," she snaps. The man replies, "Well, yeah, you can probably buy those." I see her card and it doesn't entitle her for a special seat. And she also paid for her own bus ticket. Still, the man stands up and she sits down at his place. As the bus starts moving, I glance at the old man again. His ears are enormous and his facial expressions shift constantly. He whispers, "Shoot! Don't shoot!" as he looks out of the window. "Don't leave me behind!" he mutters next. In his mind, he seems to be playing out a movie of his own. Maybe he thinks he's at war, reliving old memories? In front of me sits a man in his late 30s, dressed in a work uniform for a security company. He's holding a bouquet of roses, one of which is already broken and hanging down. I smile and imagine being the person receiving those flowers. I'd be happy. The bouquet is far from perfect, but the thought behind this is wonderful. I catch sign of his name badge hanging from his keychain on his belt. Ferdinand. It's a rare but strong name. At the next stop, a seat becomes free and I sit down. No one else wanted to sit next to Ferdinand. Across from him sits a man who, by my subjective judgment, is quite handsome. He's sitting there, smiling, looking friendly, until he suddenly starts murmuring to himself, laughing and continuing to talk. Okay, creepy. For the next 15 minutes, I try to avoid his gaze. "At my 9 o'clock shoot!" the old man behind me whispers excitedly, holding his keychain up to his face as if they were a radio. And I glance to my left, and there's Ferdinand. My stop is next. I stand up and I give Ferdinand one last look, and I leave the bus. The murmuring and the muffled sound from the countless headphones fade away. Just 5 more minutes, and I'll be home.